When today's artist arrived on the scene, he was hailed to rival the biggest names in music history. But there's a catch. He was the one who started the rumor. With his eyes firmly fixed on rock immortality, not only did he declare himself a musical genius, but he claimed that his debut record was better than one of the greatest albums ever. However, the self-hype started to get so big that people started to wonder if he was his own biggest fan. But to his credit, his record topped the album charts. 2 of his singles reached the top 5 on the Hot 100, and they're great songs. Could he sustain the success, or would he falter down the road? Find out coming up next. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Apologize, really sick right now. It's not COVID, I got a little bit of a flu, so bear with me. If you tuned in every single Saturday to see your favorite artist on American Bandstand, you're going to dig this channel. Make sure that you subscribe below right now. Click the bell so that you know when our latest interviews drop. We also have a Patreon. You're going to want to check that out. There you get full-length interviews. We're putting those up recently. You can also become an honorary producer to help us curate this music history. Man, I'm pumped up because it's time for another edition of our series, Bottle Lightning. It's my favorite. Always interesting stuff here. Here we celebrate and honor artists and bands that rocketed up the charts, but for reasons unknown weren't able to sustain that success long term. Called by many as one-hit wonders, we instead celebrate them as lightning in a bottle, Bottle Lightning. Previous episodes, we've covered What's on Your Mind, Pure Energy by Information Society. And also, She Drives Me Crazy by Fine Young Cannibals. But today, we're going to go back to the 80s to cover an artist that I, for one, thought was going to be huge when he came out. He had an amazing debut record, and we're actually going to cover both huge hits from the record. I'm talking about Terrence Trent Darby and his catchy ditties, Wishin' Well. Wish me love for wishing well, kiss and tell. And Sign Your Name. Sign your name across my heart. Now, in 1987, Terrence Trent Darby emerged onto the pop culture scene amid a storm of publicity, widely hailed as the most exciting newcomer of the decade. To some, Darby appeared to be pop's brightest new star since Prince, or Michael Jackson, or Madonna. To others, he was the latest in a long line of hyped-up musicians. Thinking about it now, the truth was probably somewhere in between. Born in Manhattan in 1962, Darby was raised in a strict Pentecostal church family, the son of a preacher and a gospel-singing mother. As a boy, he was forbidden to listen to pop music. However, at the age of 7, Darby heard I Want You Back by the Jackson 5 playing at a neighbor's house.
Oh, baby, give me one more chance.
And from that point on, everything changed. He would say, "You can't believe what those Jackson 5 records meant to me. I had been singing in church, and there was something about singing that made me know it was what I was meant to do." But then I heard the Jackson 5, and it was like a whole new world opening up for me. In high school, Terrence was an amateur boxer and a Golden Gloves champion. He later received an offer to study boxing at an Army school, and after a year of studying journalism at the University of Central Florida, he signed up for the Army. Darby served in West Germany. While he was there, he started singing for a funk band that was called The Touch. One night, Darby went AWOL to play a show. Actually, it was more than one night. And after pulling a number of disappearing acts, he was court-martialed and he was dishonorably discharged back to the States. However, Terrence came right back to Germany and he rejoined The Touch. Now, the group actually released an album in 1984, but within months they disintegrated, and Darby spent the next few years traveling around Europe before winding up in London. There, Terrence Trent Darby recorded a demo tape that led to a record contract with CBS. Terrence was then assigned to work with Australian producer Howard Gray, and the pair recorded a couple of songs, including his first single, If You Let Me Stay. Now, that went to number 7 on the UK singles chart. And after that, Martin Ware of Heaven 17, formerly of the Human League, which we just covered a few weeks back, He was brought in to produce the remainder of Darby's debut album, introducing the Hardline According to Terrence Trent Darby. During his time in the UK, a lot of hype began to build up around Terrence Trent Darby, thanks in great part to a series of over-the-top claims. For example, Darby began one New Music Express interview by saying, "I think I'm a genius, point frickin' blank." He followed that up with the claim that his debut album was the most brilliant debut album from any artist this decade. And then on another occasion, he declared that his record was a better work than Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. He's pretty confident. Darby also disparaged multiple British labels for passing on signing him. In a 1988 LA Times feature, Darby said, and I quote, "They couldn't see past the obvious. They looked at me and said, oh, here's another Michael Jackson or Prince. Who needs that? This doesn't exactly track for me. If I was a label A&R guy in the 80s, I would have happily given up half a lung to find another Michael Jackson or Prince." End of quote. Darby used nearly every interview to anoint himself a musical prodigy and to make himself a contemporary with the biggest names in popular music. The quotes did actually generate a tidal wave of publicity. However, it quickly became tiresome, and Darby came off looking just plain arrogant. Darby's response to the hardline fatigue? He said, "People were out to make me seem like the most arrogant person to ever walk the earth." But rather than being arrogant, he was just passionate. And for better or worse, passion was what made him the artist he was. Well, whether it was passion or something else, when Darby's comments reached the U.S. media, he started shifting to damage control, insisting that his quotes were taken out of context. That's always how they do it, right? He said, "People miss the nuances, like the genius thing. I was joking. I was making fun of the image I had built up. The whole arrogance thing, a lot of it was what I truly believe, but a lot of it was exaggerated just to make a point. You have to hit people over the head to make them notice, and I did that. I know how to play the game." And to quote, Darby was playing a game for sure. Or maybe he was just playing with fire. How far could he go without getting burned by that fire? So what about the debut album? Let's talk about it. Was it pretentious? Was it audacious? Preposterous? Maybe. Just take a look at the title, introducing the Hardline According to Terrence Trent Darby. This man was never short on confidence. But was it any good? Well, it did churn out 4 successful singles, starting with If You Let Me Stay, that reached number 68 in the U.S. And like I said, it went to number 7 in the UK. Then there was his biggest hit, Wishing Well.
Sing like a bandit, stealing time underneath.
That went to number 1 in the US and number 4 in the UK, and to my ears, really one of the best pop singles of that year. Next came Dance Little Sister, that reached number 30 in the US, went to number 20 in the UK.
Dance, little sister, don't give up, day. Hang on to
And finally, Sign Your Name rose to number 4 stateside, number 2 back across the pond.
sign your name across my heart. I want
It was also embraced by his peers, though. Madonna was quoted as saying it was a stellar track. George Michael covered it during his Faith tour. It was one of his favorite songs of that year as well. Now, as we continue to discuss this artist, I do want to recognize our amazing sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. With the new year upon us, there is no better time to embrace a new look, and Zenni has you covered when you order a pair of frames from Zenni.com or download their app. There you can design your very own look. You choose the color, the shape, the fashion, and best of all, it's the price. You can get a brand new pair of glasses for less than a vinyl record. Click on our link below to get started. So Terrence's album climbed to number 4 on the US Billboard album chart and went to number 1 in the UK. Also went to number 1 in Australia and Switzerland. It broke the top 5 in several countries, including Germany and New Zealand, Sweden, Austria, Norway, and the Netherlands. So yeah, it was popular, and many listeners were taken with it. But it certainly wasn't on par with Michael Jackson's Thriller or Prince's Purple Rain or Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA, all of whom Darby called his peers. But it was pretty dang solid nonetheless. Introducing the Hardline wasn't the most brilliant album of the 80s, let alone since the height of Beatlemania. But you know what? It was good enough. Good enough to make Terrence Trent Darby an instant sensation. Darby's mix of pop, rock, soul, and R&B was reminiscent of Prince, in its scope and sound. But he approached these sounds a lot differently than Prince. As a singer, Darby had a throwback 60s soulfulness to his voice that, reminded one of the best rhythm and blues belters of that day. It was inspired by the likes of Al Green and James Brown and Sam Cooke. Introducing the Hardline certified platinum in the US on April 19, 1988, and it went double platinum 7 months later. A solid debut and a great center to build from. So no doubt the biggest reason for introducing the Hardline success, that is outside of Darby's barrage of self-promotion, was his #1 hit, Wishing Well.
Wish me love or wishing well to kiss and tell.
So Wishing Well is a song that got its start while he was, as he put it, in a half-asleep, half-awake state of mind. And like most of his songs, the lyrics were written in about 10 minutes. He woke up, wrote it down. There it was. Now, bassist Sean Oliver is also credited with songwriting on the track, a credit there as well. Wishing Well has a sleek, basic groove that's tethered to an enormous drum sound. I mean, this song is soulful, it's funky. It's also playful, sporting a catchy whistling hook. I mean, Darby, for all of his confidence, he can really sing. He's got grit, rasp, soul, and, passion. Not to mention a tremendous falsetto. Wishing Well, it's a love song, but, it's disguised in lyrics that are pretty out there. Memorable and poetic, kind of a hippie sensibility. Though its lyrics are a little more than flowery gibberish. Hugging like a monkey see, monkey do.
Hugging like a monkey see, monkey do.
A wishing well of butterfly tears and crocodile cheers. Cupid by the hour sends valentines. It's hard to imagine this was written in only 10 minutes.
Cupid by the hour sends valentines.
But in all seriousness, these random bits of nonsense are still just so much fun to sing, even decades later. Watching the Wishing Well music video, you really get a sense of Darby's arrogance in action. Or confidence. The guy did have a lot going for him, though. He could sing, good-looking guy, he could move, he oozed charisma. He had swagger. Wishing Well hung around the charts for months, and finally moved into the top spot after an incredible 17 weeks on the charts. That made Wishing Well the slowest rising #1 since Eurythmics' Sweet Dreams in '83. Now, by the time Wishing Well conquered the charts, Darby had performed the song at the Grammys, and he'd been nominated for Best New Artist, an award that he actually lost to Jody Watley. Since its heyday, Wishing Well has appeared in a number of movies and TV shows, including My Name is Earl, Knocked Up, Being Erica, Psych, Selfie, and Dead of Summer. Wishing Well has also been covered by George Michael, by Daryl Hall, and Bare Naked Ladies.
Like a bandit, stealing time underneath.
Yet to me, Wishing Well is a near perfect pop song. I mean, no one can deny Darby's soulfulness. He knocks it out of the park with this song in so many ways. I love his laugh-sing part. Me and my friend always thought that he somehow got away with dropping an F-bomb in the song, but I later figured out that he was saying, "Make it funky now, boys." This is one of those songs that when it came on the radio, not only were you not going to change the channel, but halfway through the song, you were screaming the lyrics or whistling right along. It's just one of those songs. Now, after Wishing Well, Terrence Trent Darby released Dance Little Sister. It didn't come close to Wishing Well's success, but the song after that did. Sign Your Name, that was released as a single in December of '87. As I mentioned before, it reached #4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, much like Wishing Well, Sign Your Name originated in a dream state. Said Darby, "It came from a dream where Sade asked me to write a song for her. It was inspired by a dream and seeing Sade perform at Live Aid in the mid-'80s. Very cool. It would have been interesting to hear a duet from those guys. Sign Your Name definitely sounds... Perhaps the most beautiful song on Introducing the Hardline. I mean, lyrically, it takes on a more intimate tone than Wishing Well. With the fervent plea to sign your name across my heart, I want you to be my baby. In contrast to the wishful lyrics of the song, which seem to be an invitation to start a love affair, the music video picks up just after that relationship ends, beginning with the female voice of model Kelly Brennan saying, "Au revoir, Terrence."
Au revoir, Terrence. Au revoir, Terrence.
We see her eye peering through a keyhole. Darby is still asleep in the room, mimicking what happened when he wrote the song. But from the time he wakes up, her memory follows him throughout the video until he finally tracks her down to reconcile at the end. It's a bit James Dean-esque with the Indian motorcycle and his wild one leather jacket. Like I said, one of the most beautiful hits of that year. Since its release, Sign Your Name, it's also appeared in a number of movies and TV shows. Children's Ward, Knocked Up. Up in the Air, Your Name. It's also been covered by George Michael. Go West, Heaven 17. Michael Bolton. Tom Jones and Sheryl Crow. Sign Your Name was the last single issue from Introducing the Hardline, and up to that point, things were looking pretty promising. All the commercial and critical success had Darby poised to be a major act for years to come. I remember being excited for what he was going to release next. However, with the release of his second album in October of '89, Darby didn't deliver, or at least he didn't deliver what listeners wanted to hear. Just like its title, Neither Fish Nor Flesh, a soundtrack of love, faith, hope, and destruction, it was even more expansive than its debut, but it stalled at number 61 on the Billboard Albums chart, and it failed to sell even as many copies as the Wishing Well single, which that actually certified gold. Neither Fish Nor Flesh dropped off the charts pretty quickly. Didn't even register a charting single on the Hot 100. This Side of Love stalled at number 83 in the UK as the best showing there. Then there was the lengthy titled, To Know Someone Deeply is to Know Someone Softly. That reached number 47 on the US R&B chart and went to number 55 in the UK. And that was the best it would do. The muted reception effectively killed Darby's commercial momentum. And the following two records, Symphony or Damn, that was in '93, and Terrence Trent Darby's Vibrator in '95, continued Darby's commercial downward spiral, scraped in at number 119 and number 178 respectively. Now, Symphony or Damn did score a number 74 single on the Hot 100 with the help of Desiree. The song was called Delicate. But it was his last gasp for mainstream relevancy. After the disappointment of Vibrator, CBS let Darby go. From then on, Terrence Trent Darby effectively vanished in more ways than one. In 1995, at the age of 33, Terrence Trent Darby adopted a new name as a symbol of rebirth, Sananda Maitreya. According to Darby, or Sananda, Terrence Trent Darby had died a noble death. After intense pain, I meditated for a new spirit, a new will, and a new identity. People ask, why did you change your name? When you have a psyche that's no longer functional, you petition another psyche. Sananda has also claimed that his alter ego has actually joined the so-called 27 Club, referring to the tragic artists who died at that age. Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain and Amy Winehouse. He said, it felt like I was going to join the 27 Club, and psychologically I did, because that's exactly the age I was when I was killed. Okay. In later years, Darby would cite music industry conspiracies as the reason for his commercial plummet. He said that there was not enough room in the industry for Michael Jackson, Prince, and Terrence Trent Darby. You know, there wasn't room for all to have successful careers. Someone had to go, and he was that guy. Not that stopped Darby, now Sananda, from releasing more albums independently. In fact, he's been quite prolific. 2001, he released Wild Card, and since then, he's released 8 more albums, most recently Pandora's Playhouse in 2021. I love his music, but the truth is, ego got in the way of this career. I understand that ego is a part of the process and all that. But all the superstars of that moment had at least a little bit of insecurity. I mean, George Michael was humble and shy. Michael Jackson was driven by the desire to better Thriller. Madonna was a master marketer. Prince was an undeniable genius, but they all backed it up. Terrence Trent Darby, how do you let the music do the talking? I think he might have had a shot, actually. Note to aspiring musicians, never say your album is better than Sgt. Pepper. Hey, leave us a comment about Terrence Trent Darby, otherwise known as Sananda, and his debut album introducing the Hardline. I'll link to his other albums. I hope success for this guy. What did you think about Wishing Well when you first heard it and Sign Your Name? What are your memories of these songs? Let us know in the comments below. What do you think happened? Did he have a chance to be one of the great superstars of the era? Let's talk about it. If you like our videos, we invite you to subscribe below. Be a part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.